Oh, hello, welcome to Big Conversations with T. And to be fair, last time I did a big show like this was in October, during the election night, October 18th to be precise. And I promised myself I would never do it again. And what do you know? I'm back at it tonight. We have an interesting lineup. I was really moved by the conversation with Lee McConnell, and it takes the awesome grace of God to parent, to mother an extraordinary child, like Arabi. And my heart goes to mothers and parents with children on the autistic spectrum. So I hope this month we all can learn something, learn more about autism. We can go find out to know how we can support our behavior in our actions and so on, and maybe not judge when we see parents at superstore struggling with their kids throwing a tantrum. It's 7:32 p.m. and I'd like to introduce our next conversation. Our next big conversation is with Pastor Dee Adekugbe. She's based out in Calgary and she's the founder of Roots House. And uh, she joins us to talk about domestic violence in our community, in African communities. So we recorded this earlier this week, and I genuinely hope it plays well. So do enjoy listening to the conversation with Pastor D earlier this week.
In crisis. And so we were helping people behind closed.
Okay, I think this banner is better, so I'm just gonna. Here it goes. How I met you with your media. Hello, welcome to Conversations with T. Adeyemo. Today we have a special guest, Pastor Dee Adekugbe, and she joins us to talk about Roots House and a lot more. Welcome, Pastor Dee. Thank you so much for joining Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So I've been following you for a little bit, and when we spoke in the morning, I told how I met you with your media blitz around the mayor of Edmonton. Can you tell us how the idea for Roots House got started?
So as a pastor, I in the community, I work with a lot of individuals who are needing help, not only from the church, but from the community itself. And so during the pandemic, we had a lot of requests for support from families that were struggling with their marriage, families in crisis. And so we were helping people behind closed doors, underground, one family at a time. And then this year, my team and I were thinking about how to celebrate my birthday. And I remember just hearing this voice in the middle of the night saying, it's time to launch out into the deep and help more people. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to go deeper. And I shared it with my team and I said, this is the idea that I'm having. And they said, yes, let's do this. And overnight, within 4 weeks, what we have been doing in the secret came out into the open. I'm a pastor, so I can literally say that what we've been doing in secret, God brought out into the open for us.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's talk about some of the work you've been doing in secret. How bad is domestic violence in African communities?
Domestic violence in African community, like any other community, is pretty bad. It's a global pandemic. It's not just within the African community. It's in every community around the world. And over the last few years, it has gotten worse because of the COVID pandemic that we had, and families that were told to stay home. As people were told to stay home, the pressure, the stress, the anxiety levels increased. And, people's finances were put on the strain, relationships were put on the strain, and rather than turning to each other for support, many families were turning on each other instead. And so across the world, across the globe, domestic violence has increased significantly. And because I work within the African community, I've also seen that increase, pertaining to my community. And I'm seeing that, hold on a minute, as people are coming into Calgary, the stress, they come with visions, they come with ideas, they come with passion, but they also come with mindsets that everything's going to be rosy. And they encounter problems and trials and tribulations. And, they, rather than seek supports that are readily available, they begin to turn the anger and frustration on each other. And so there's been a significant increase in families struggling with abuse in our city, prompting us to, say, we got to do something about this.
Okay, I want us, before we look at what you do at Ruth's house, let's talk about the effect of faith. I understand that, okay, let me just ask you this fairly and squarely. Does faith stop or help aggression? So if I say I speak in tongues, does it mean, or people who speak in tongues who go to church, would they be less abusive or less aggressive? Or the fact that I'm a Christian, does this make me immune because I'm going to heaven? Does this make me immune to domestic violence?
No, there's no exemption from domestic violence. Domestic violence affects all faiths, all religions. It affects all communities. It affects, from the low class to middle class to upper class, regardless of, your faith and your relationship with God. You are not immune to anger. Bible even talks about it's okay to get angry, but just don't turn it into sin. So the Bible knows that we're going to get angry. Jesus Christ even got angry. He got angry, when he went into the temple and saw the way people were behaving and how they turned the temple. Our faith does not exempt us from abuse. It doesn't exempt us from being violent. Our faith is supposed to help us to be better human beings and contributors to society, but it doesn't exempt us. It doesn't give us a free pass that says, because you're a Christian, you have this mark on your forehead that says you will never be an abuser. You can never be abused.
So
those are choices.
Individual choices. I hear what you say about anger, deep-seated anger that leads to resentment, bitterness, and then you lash out on your spouse and your children. I hear that. But why isn't it something we talk about? Why is it many times, even when you go to church, the best pastors just don't spend time dealing with husbands who beat their wives or wives who beat their husbands, or boyfriends who beat up their girlfriends and girlfriends who beat up their boyfriends?
Domestic violence is an intimate, the word domestic means intimate. It's, violence is an intimate pandemic, whether you're married or you're in a common law relationship or boyfriend and girlfriend. Why don't churches address this? Why don't churches, deal with this? I can't speak for all churches, but one thing I can say is there are a number of churches that I've watched online over the years that do address the topic of domestic violence. I've heard many pastors speak against it when they're doing marriage conferences. It may not be a topic that is addressed on a daily basis, but it depends on, for me personally, I think it depends upon the grace that, the pastor also has. If a pastor is more of a motivational preacher, or someone that is more, I don't know, I don't want to use the word down to earth more, that deals with more social issues, he may, I want to believe that he will address such things. But if a pastor is more theological and only preaches holiness and may go into heaven. Social issues like domestic violence may not be on the topic of, their preaching and their teaching, materials. So it, like I said, it depends upon the leadership of the church and what their grace are to teach and share with their congregation. But it is something that does get addressed in the church. It may not be as much as we want it to be.
Thank you. So, should we be looking to train pastors, imams then on social issues so their messages are a bit more relevant to the congregation and to our communities? Because I go to a church, for example, and I cannot tell you the last time I heard social issues being mentioned. So it's almost as though the church is on a line, a strand, and the community or society. And when you try to say, okay, oh, my husband is beating me up, for example, they take the Bible and say, you cannot divorce your husband, and they want to hit you upside the head with the Bible with some really patriarchal quotes like that. How do you respond to that?
I think the church, should play a role when it comes to social issues. The Bible does talk about that the religion that God is looking for is to take care of the orphans, to take care of the widows. So as a church, I do believe that we have a social responsibility to our congregation. We are there to take care, shepherds are there to take care of the spirit, soul, and body of their congregations. And I'm hoping that when pastors go through seminary and theological schools and Bible colleges, that they are taught that we're not just focusing on the spiritual side of people's lives, the whole body, spirit, soul, and body, we are three in one. And so it is, I believe that, churches, every religious community should focus on, the spirit, soul, and body of their congregation, addressing all aspects of their congregants, not just their spiritual lives. Because if you address their spiritual lives and don't address their natural, their natural lives, that you don't address their hunger, you don't address their mental health, there is an imbalance there in terms of what you are providing and the care that you are giving to your congregation. And we should not be leaving those emotional care, the physical and the soul and the physical to social services. The church should be playing a role. Jesus Christ did. He fed people. He healed people. He also witnessed to them about the love of God. So he met all three, aspects of their lives, spirit, soul, and body.
So what do you say to people who say, but some pastors are not paid, they work for free, why should they care? You can't go to church and expect that the church will be your daddy, your mommy, your kitchen, your pantry, your storehouse.
It shouldn't be. The church shouldn't be.
So the church can't be everything to everybody.
The church cannot be everything, but the church is a starting place, for the needs of the people. Even Jesus Christ couldn't meet all the needs of the people, but that's why the Bible says that he trained the disciples and he sent them out, because he couldn't be everything and be everywhere at the same time. I believe the role of the church is to, present opportunities, present resources, be relevant to the soul and the body of their members, not just their spirit. And I believe that there is a need for collaboration with agencies and a government in order to meet all of the needs of members of the congregation.
Would you say Ruth's House would look to gather all these theological churches and train them to be a bit more relevant to needs in 2022 than to add core Old Testament or New Testament Jewish traditions that has been taught in some churches?
I think our vision really is to do that, is to equip the churches on domestic violence, not all social issues. We cannot do that. Our niche, our focus is on domestic violence. And I think, for Ruth's House, we want to come alongside the faith communities, as well as community leaders, whether you're in the Nigerian community, the Ghanaian community. We want to come alongside all communities within the African nation and all faith leaders and equip them and let them know that there are resources in-house to protect and support the family. I believe that if the church, if the faith community are aware of what is available in-house, they will be able to provide even a better service to their congregants, as well as not just the faith leaders, but community leaders. We have the Nigerian Association, the Ghanaian Association, the Cameroon Associations. All of us have to, we all have to work together collaboratively to meet the needs of our community members.
Thank you, Pastor Dee. I'm just reading here that women and girls account for 2/3 or 67% of all victims of family violence in 2019. Do you find within faith communities that one of the factors that prevents women and girls from talking out is shame? How prevalent is that problem?
Of course, shame is a big thing. Shame is a big thing that the focusing on the African community that we deal with on a daily basis, and also the taboo, the stigma surrounding abuse. When we think about, oh my God, how did I get here? I'm educated and yet I am being abused. We're told you can't talk about that. Nobody wants to listen to you. We're both like, oh, suck it up. We've been through it. At least he's providing for you. At least, he's doing this, he's doing that. We have, shame has become a uniform, not even a uniform, an undergarment that we wear every day that prevents us from getting the help that we need. And once we begin to deal with shame and the taboo and the stigma around domestic violence, I believe that we will begin to heal and we will begin to, live a life that is worthy of the blood of Jesus. I believe that right now, many, don't forget that domestic abuse has been there for generations. This is not something new. Our grandfathers, our great-grandparents, this has become, it has been normalized in our community. Yeah, we all grew up with it, not just the Africans, where the husband, the man is the head of the house, the king, the Lord, everything. And the woman is, just supposed to submit, subordinate, and just do as she's told. Oh, I married you, did I? I paid your bride price, so you are my property. All of this thing has been there for generations. I think what God wants to do now is to say, just like he did with the Israelites in Egypt, the cries of my people has come up to me. Enough is enough. Ruth's house wants to be a part of that solution.
Okay, let's talk about the solutions then. So a part of it is to destigmatize shame.
Mm-hmm.
What else it seems like a tall order, how do you do all this? The good stuff on your websites, education, prevention, intervention, advocacy. That's a lot of work to do.
It is a lot of work. This is not going to, it's not going to be done overnight. It's taking generations to get here. Mm-hmm. So I'm not expecting an overnight success. There's no such thing. I'm not expecting, for us to abolish domestic violence in a day, a week, a month, or a year. What I am expecting and what I am believing for is that the work to eliminate and to eradicate domestic violence will begin in our generation and will eventually get there before it impacts our children's generation. And so in order for us to do all of this work, the key is the word village. We have, we all understand the concept of it takes a village to raise a child. It's going to take the same village to work together cohesively with one mind, one spirit. The Bible says if they are of one mind, there will be nothing that they will not be able to achieve. We have to work together, you know, regardless of our faith, our beliefs, our cultural differences, together to say that we want to put an end to domestic violence, and and remove that label. Let's remove that stigma, put away the shame. Let's remove the garment of shame. Let's remove that taboo, and let's begin to address it, that yes, it's been around for generations, but it can also end in this generation.
Amen. I'll say that. How do you support men? Because I know, maybe anecdotally, most African men are patriarchal. You're a woman. How do you reach to the average African man that maybe struggles to listen to his own wife, let alone roots out? So what kind of support program do you have going on for African men?
We have a program coming up on April 30th, next Saturday. It's called the Brotherhood. And I want to encourage every man to get involved in that. The Brotherhood is the brothers supporting the brothers who have experienced domestic violence, who are dealing with domestic violence. The best way to support the men is by our brothers coming together. Yeah, it's by men working together, helping each other. And at the same time, it's also to recognize, and I'm a woman and I understand what the Bible says, to recognize that there is hierarchy. There's an hierarchy when it comes to the things of God. A man was there, God created man, and he created woman to support the man. So I do understand the respect. I understand the honor. And I'll tell you that when we started Ruth's house, we presented this to our elders. And I remember that day, I knelt down before our elders in the city. And I said, this is what God is calling us to do. We need the elders this is what we want to do. We want to submit it to our elders to get their blessing.
What these elders?
But I'm a woman of I believe in honor and respect. So I'm talking about our community leaders, presidents of associations.
Okay, elders they all came together.
When we launched Ruth House on February 26th, we brought all of them together. Over 100 key leaders.
And you knelt down in front of all of them?
Yes, why not?
Oh, wow.
And I presented, I said, we want to help our community, but we need the blessing and the support of our elders and our leaders.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed to do that, because I understand that as our community, respect and honor is a big thing for us.
Oh, wow.
And as a woman of faith, I also understand that role. And
how did they receive you? Didn't they say, get up, get up, get up? No.
It was, for me, it wasn't something to be ashamed of. It's recognizing that,
not to be ashamed of. It's just different. It's different to understand kneeling down privately, but kneeling down publicly, that's a different.
It's the culture that we come from. It's a culture of respect.
Well, you left the culture decades ago. What have you got?
It doesn't matter. I'm still a part of my community. I didn't grow up in Nigeria. Oh, no. I didn't, I don't speak Yoruba that good, but I still understand honor.
You never forgot it.
I am surrounded today by leaders and elders in my community, in the Nigerian Association, the Ghanaian Association. I look to them for direction. I look to them for support. I look to them for leadership in order for us, because I truly believe in that word village. And one of the things that we did was coming together means all of our elders creating a campaign video. And in the video, each person speaking out against domestic violence and asking our members to get involved with Ruth's House. And that videos are what we use on our social media. Because if one person like yourself, T, sees your president of Nigerian Association saying, as the president of the Nigerian Association, I'm speaking out against domestic violence. I want you to get involved in Ruth's House if you need help. That, where we come from, gives us the liberty and the freedom to ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Don't
I
forget,
mean,
we're traditional people, regardless
yeah,
of where we live.
but the Igbos don't kneel down. Did they accept? Did they see what you were doing? For example, even in Ghana, they don't kneel down. But
It's
that's
it's an
something.
African, it's paying respect to the elders is a
I
it's
Pastor Dee, I've not heard anything like this in a long time. As in, I don't know how even to respond. It's shocking, but it's refreshing. It's humility. It's if you want to get something done and you're passionate, I'll kneel down too.
but it is, you must start in order to deal with
I hear
something,
what you're saying.
in order to deal with something that has been embedded into our society and into our culture. My darling, you must go to the elders of the house and get
Right.
their buy-in.
Of course. Of
Yeah,
course. Of
because
course.
you cannot be a runaway, a loose cannon trying to, do something within the community and not have the parents, the leaders, yeah, supporting you and helping you.
It's true.
Yeah, for me, things like that speaks volume about what we're trying to do and why it is important. And we're trying to eradicate years of indoctrination. Everybody needs to be on board.
I mean, from this chat, I try to learn something to better my own life, and I've heard something really radical today. I understand the principle of honor. You give honor, you get it back. You sow and you reap. But this one is on a whole different level. And it to stay with me for a long time, I'm sure. It takes me to my final question because I know your time is precious. So you knelt down. You must have been received powerfully in Calgary because I was on your call last week on the Nigerian woman who was unfortunately killed by her husband. And all of Calgary was there, all of Edmonton, they were on that call. It was because now I see the secret, and I'm not trying to mess around here. You knelt down and you've been a part of the community for decades. You know these people, you know your community. I think that is it. So could you tell us how your message has been received, how it's how people are reacting to Ruth's house?
Initially, we were getting backlash. Oh, who does she think she is? She's trying to, brainwash our women. She's trying to do, these, but I realized that in order to, you have to understand all of the when negative comments come from a place of ignorance and fear. Yeah, and the people will say things because they don't know any difference or they're afraid. So we've been able to overcome that, and we're still doing, dealing with that on a daily basis. But overall, the response that we have Ruth's House has received has been beyond words. From our community leaders and the various community associations, they're like, we're behind you, we support you, we're here for you, we want to make this work, this is timely, this is right, we believe in this. The response from government and agencies has been overwhelming as well, because we are building a bridge between our community and external agencies and authorities and governments. And, Ruth's House is that middle, that bridge, advocating on behalf of our community to external parties. And at the same time, advocating on behalf of external parties to our community so that together we can all one day say that domestic violence is something of the past. We don't have a hidden agenda. Our work really is to ensure that the African family in Calgary not only succeeds, but they thrive, and that they are a contributor to society, not a drain.
What about the African families in Edmonton?
I'm not privy to Edmonton yet, right? Yeah, I live in Calgary, so I'm still working within the Calgary to develop this. This is a grassroots, groundbreaking organization.
Are you the only Black African organization that does this sort of work in Calgary? Because I know Siwa is, immigrant, but they are not quite like you.
No, a lot of our referrals come from all the external agencies to us, because we are a specialized agency, specializing in the African community. So all agencies like Siwa that you mentioned and all other agencies, they refer their clients to us because, oh, there's this African woman, she's from this country, she really needs that community support to be able to move forward and get back on her feet. Ruth's House is the best place to go to for that.
Pastor Dee, you have been amazing. Your vision is to break the cycle of abuse in the African community, starting in Calgary to Edmonton to all over Canada or around the world. I want to say thank you, honestly, so much for your time. Where can people find you?
Yes, please. If you are in an abusive relationship, there is help for you. Please do not wait until something worse happens. Don't wait until your children are taken away. Don't wait until you end up in a hospital or in a casket. We are here to support you. There's no shame, there's no judgment, there's no condemnation. Please call our number, go on our website, find us on social media, find any which way to reach Dee Adekugbe or Ruth's House. We are all over social media. And just call or email, and we're here to help. And also to the churches and community leaders, we want to support you as you support your community members. So let's work together and let's make sure that the people under you are strong and supported in their time of need.